What's up, fellow podcaster? In today's podcast interview breakdown, I'll be reacting to an interview with Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort on his podcast, The Wolf's Den. Here we go.
JB here in the house, The Wolf's Den. I got a great guest today, the one you've all been waiting for. Everyone keeps thinking people keep thinking like we have this like ongoing feud, like it's the rumble in the freaking beach jungle here. But dude, I'm really actually excited to have you here. Thank you for coming. And I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
because I think that, listen, all I want you to know is that my whole alchemy is I want to try to extract as much as I can from you about how you go out and train salespeople, about your life, because I want to give this massive to the audience, right?
Well, everybody wants to know who's the better salesman, right? That's what they keep saying.
I don't know, you know.
Well, it depends who you talk to. You ask Jordan, he's going to say he is.
Listen, I honestly,
this would be a great comment this would be a great question for the comment section is, are you Team Grant or Team Jordan? Let me know in the comment section.
I think that I love to sell.
Yeah.
But one thing I realized pretty quickly is I'm even better at training salespeople than I am I'm a great salesperson, but I really excel when I love doing it. Like when
I don't like sales at all.
I love training people. So anyways, let's start in the beginning. So when did you start selling?
When I had to.
So what was what was your first job? Like a formal job?
It's a great question example. It's an open-ended question. He's like, even though it was open to, okay, tell me about your first job, he just straight up answered with when I had to. So he had to be a little bit more specific, but he didn't miss a beat. This happens in podcast interviews all the time. And then he's starting to go into detail. So sometimes you just got to be a little bit more specific. But when you're interviewing people on your podcast or just, podcast interviews in general, I call it volleyball. Like you as the host, you asking the questions. It's never about you. It's about the person you're interviewing. So with this, you want to set them up and let them spike. For whatever reason, Grant, just when he had to, I don't know if he was trying to be funny. But yeah.
Clothing store. I was paid 6% on a $12 tie. I was 16 years old.
Okay.
So I'd make whatever that is, 6% of $12. I mean,
okay, $7.20.
72
cents. Yeah, 72 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. I hated that job.
And how'd you do it? Were you good at it though?
No, I was terrible.
You weren't good at it.
I was terrible. And it was awful. The only time I was good at sales was when there was urgency on my part. Like I had to sell it. Like I sold furniture, I was terrible. I got fired. I sold clothes. I was fired from that job. And there was one other job. I think it was a refinery job. I lost that job. I lost 6 jobs. But the only time that I ever sold anything successfully was a bunch of fish that we had caught, redfish, red snappers. They caught hundreds and hundreds of them. And
You caught yourself?
I was on a supply boat out in New Orleans, Louisiana, off the coast. I was doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I was helping the cook. That was my job, right? It was a total labor boat. 3 of us on the boat. We'd bring supplies out to the oil rigs. I've never told this story. And one day we dropped lines over the boat in about 120 foot of water. And we would drop lines and it would have 120 foot line, not a fishing pole, a line.
Right.
A rope, dude, with like 80 hooks on it. And you just wait. You sit and wait and do nothing. And then you go over there and you pull up 60 fish. Every line had 60 fish.
Really?
So
where was this though?
This is south of New Orleans.
Okay.
I was going to say, when Grant talks about these sales job he has, I'm familiar with him talking about car sales and things like that. But this is one of those, I talk about this all the time. When you get 2 big heavy hitters like this in a room together, it's like they would get so much more. They would get something more out of it than I could ask. I would do my best, but since they're so top level with what they do, it's good to see what Jordan will get out of Grant and vice versa.
So we catch, I don't know, 300-400 fish. We couldn't even keep them all.
Right.
Snapper about this big. So I tell the guys, I'm like, hey guys, can I have your fish? I mean, we can't eat it all. So we put it on ice. And on the way home, when we came in, like 8 days later, I stopped door to door. This is how I started my career. Door to door. I was selling fish.
To homes.
To restaurants. To businesses.
God, okay.
To State Farm agents. Hey, guys, I got some fish.
Right.
It's fresh as shit right here.
You know, I did the same job, by the way, but with boxes of frozen steak and meat and fish.
Well, I didn't have enough ice. I didn't plan or I didn't know what I was doing. So the fish was going bad.
Got it.
And I'm like, I have to sell this shit.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to go bad.
So what was your rap? What was your pitch back then?
Hey, guys, I got fish. I got fish. That was my fucking stick.
I'll give you really good.
I'll be honest. Normally when I do these podcast interview breakdowns, I go into it cold. I've never seen it. I've seen this interview before and I know that what he just said became a meme and people were sounding off in the comment sections all over social media, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's been over a year. Or no, it's probably been, it's been a while since I've seen this. So I'm basically going into this cold, but I just wanted to, for those people who have seen it, it was a meme, like, I got fish. And this interview takes an interesting turn here in a little bit.
The prices they're about to,
straight
I don't tell them now they're going to go bad.
I got fish. I just caught them. You want them? And that's how I still sell today, by the way.
Okay.
Like there's no, it's very direct, to the point, find out if you're interested, and then I move on.
So if someone's not interested, in other words, one of the things I know about, I did a little bit of checking, right? Not that much, right? And by the way, the reason I don't do checking is because I don't want to, so many, there's people steal so much shit out there, right? I mean, there's all these false gurus and people, the experts of the hour, right?
Yeah.
So I don't make it a habit of trying to go through other people's stuff. So I feel like then I'll adopt it as my own. Rightly, sometimes I even realize that you took it from someone else. Accidentally. So
my shit's so good, dude. If you watch it, you will use it again. You can't not use it a second time.
Well, really? Okay, good. Well, what's the stuff about being unreasonable? Like when you say, if you want to just be unreasonable with like not stop, but what if they don't want it? What's the fine line?
Oh, you saw the unreasonable. You're like the follow up.
No. I mean, like, okay, so you have two types of people. You have buyers and non-buyers, right? Like, what do you mean?
No, I don't believe that. I think they're all buyers.
You think everyone's a buyer?
Every person, every human being you meet is going to buy something.
Whether
they might not buy my fish, but then they're going to buy insurance or they're going to buy groceries. Or they're all buyers.
But what you're selling fish though?
In that case, I was selling fish, but that does not make them a non-buyer.
Of fish though,
that day, that moment.
Right. No, if they don't. My point is, technically,
every buyer's a buyer.
Okay, so
all I'm looking for is money anyway. Every seller's looking for something. They're looking for money. They don't want to keep what they have. They're looking for money.
So you don't think? Okay, so
I think every buyer's a buyer.
Slow it down for 1 second, all right? Slow it down for a second. I know you speak almost as fast as me.
You're on the Red Bull. I'm not.
Question, okay? So if you're a salesman, a young salesman out in the field, let's say you're selling insurance, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you knock on someone's door and say, I'm not interested in insurance.
I understand.
Would you keep pushing and pushing and pushing?
No, I totally understand. But I don't believe that they're not interested is an interest level.
Okay, so Jordan, by the way, is being extremely patient. And this is where I was a huge Grant Cardone fan back in the day, Uncle G, whatever, loved his style. And then I saw this interview and this is where I was like, wait a minute, why? Jordan is asking a very basic question, a very basic sales question. So it's like, what if they say no? Because in sales, the way I was taught, back in the day when I did door-to-door with DirecTV, if they say no 3 times, don't even waste your time and go. It's a very basic question of what do you do when they say no? He just said, do you push just a little bit and see if you can finagle? Do you get 3 no's or do you just not waste any time? That's the question. And Grant's like, I don't know what he's doing. He's avoiding the answer. He's avoiding the question completely.
Okay.
Not interested is better than before you hit that door and they said they weren't interested. Not interest. No interest is a level of interest.
Okay.
Like if I have no coffee in my house, I'm talking about coffee.
Okay.
0, none is a quantity.
Time for the wolf to do his thing. I'm going to.
What does that mean? By the way, that just went to commercial. What did I miss something? Maybe somebody in the comments can let me know what the hell he just said and what he means by that.
Sell you something that you want. Thing is, they use on earbuds, right? These things are so cool from a company called Ray. So I have never seen the dick open up sounds so working now. They sent the face. money free. It's this big. If you're cold calling,
A lot of people need a funnel.
cheap trying to push actual wolf. All right, check this one out. Right. So for the salesperson themselves, though, how do you manage that situation? Do you keep trying to push, or you go on to the next door?
Well, you definitely want to go. You definitely need a funnel. You definitely need. I mean, the ultimate solution to all sales is to have a lot of people to talk to.
Okay.
It's not some trick.
Right. So if you're cold calling out in the field, right? Let's say you're going door to door. A lot of people do that, right? So whether it's door to door or out on the phone, right? You knock on someone's door, right? Do you believe that you should try to knock on as many doors as possible, try to really go deeper into people who aren't interested, or what's the sweet spot?
No, they should.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's not a trick. I was just what's the sweet spot? How do you know when?
See, you can tell that Jordan's patience is he's about to I don't know. I can just tell he's getting irritated. And he even said he slipped it in there real quick. It's not a trick question. Like maybe Grant thought that he was trying to catch him in something, but it just seems like he's just trying to get to the bottom of it. But props to him for pressing a little bit, because usually with bigger people, they don't like to be pressed like that, either for whatever reason, whether trying to avoid talking about a certain subject, but he's pressing him a little bit.
It's better to not waste your time.
Sweet spot.
Okay.
Right. Like, because even if they hit the sweet spot, it's about volume. I mean, there's no success without volume.
Okay.
So anybody that's trying to like come up with the thing is trying to get away from the work.
Right.
And so there's no trick in this game. Like if a person wants to be really successful in sales, real estate, acting, you need a lot of hits.
Right.
Right. So like I think everybody's looking for that one thing that gets that in the door and gets that one sale, as opposed to opposed to, dude, how do I keep calling on the whole neighborhood?
Right.
How do I keep working that neighborhood and then the next neighborhood? And then how do I come back? Because one thing the cold call people do that incorrectly is they canvas cold a neighborhood and they never go back to that neighborhood. But watch, I do. I go back in. So I'm basically following you up.
Okay.
Okay. It's somebody once said, hey, somebody else blows up the tire. They blow up the tires and I ride the bike. You know, they get them ready.
Okay.
So that neighbor, that person, that phone call, that door is going to be knocked on again by someone.
Okay.
Now, the fact that most people are just not going to go back and hit on it. But the
What about time management issue? What's the time management in terms of?
I was going to say, he kind of answered and said that it was like, you need volume. Okay. So what you're saying is if you were a door-to-door salesman, you want to knock on as many doors as humanly possible. That is true, because that's exactly what I did. The more times that you knocked on the door, the more people are going to buy DirecTV or fish or pens or whatever. But do you see now it's like Jordan knows that he's trying to do something, or he's just trying to avoid it. So now he's changing subjects a little bit just to get off this subject, because he understands even a producer would be listening to this and be like, what is he talking about? We need to get out of this before people click off.
New doors versus old doors.
I don't know. The gold is in the follow-up.
Okay, so in other words, you don't have a distinction, because it's a good question, don't you think? Though, like, when do you know?
Not really. I think it's a bad question.
You think it's a bad question?
I think it's not the right question. I think
when to not to follow.
I think the young salesperson should be taught, hey, look, there's no trick, dude. There's no freaking sweet spot of this game. The sweet spot, if there is a sweet spot, it is about creating tremendous volumes of activity, having lots of people to talk to.
So hitting lots and lots of doors.
Or taking lots of phone calls.
Or hitting doors, or whether it's cold the phone or doors, right?
Sweet spot,
numbers game, you think?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
But if they know me, rather than me knowing them, if they already know me, then my leverage goes up probably 10x.
Okay. Can you explain that?
Hey, I know you. I saw you in the paper. I saw you on like you get that because people know about the movie, right? So you immediately have some altitude or lift,
right? Because
people know you. It's not who I know; it's who knows me,
right? So for the young salesperson just getting started,
or old, there's some old salespeople out there. You got any old people watching your show?
I got a few. I tell you what, though, I actually skew kind of on the young side, but I have all ages, of course, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is like for someone starting out, right?
Taking
Because
control.
a lot of people get into sales. And the thing I see them doing, a lot of people, they waste their time talking to they try to go so deep into a non-buyer. You disagree?
I think people need to learn how to talk to people.
Right.
Keep talking to them, no matter what their interest is.
So if you give someone let's say you give someone a stack of like 200 leads to dial through, right? And you get a salesman who wants to speak to everybody. Like he's going to speak to someone who's, let's say, have no money, they have no job, and they want to sell them a $10,000 product, and they waste 45 minutes in that call. Would that be smart or not smart?
He shouldn't have started that call with one product. Why?
Because he works at a company that has one product.
That's stupid. Go some other place. Because
So
you can't
change your
sell
job
one
then.
product.
Okay.
I mean, who does that? Amazon doesn't do it. Grocery stores don't do it. Starbucks doesn't do it. Nobody, no matter how good that one product is, nobody can build a business or any kind of success on one product.
Or let's say a couple of products, 2 or 3 products, right? The average company out there.
Yeah. You need more than one
You
product.
need more than product, okay?
Like if I try to hit everybody with a $10,000 product or even a $1 product.
Even a $100
If I hit somebody
product.
with a $1 product, I miss the guy that wants to spend $10,000.
So the
Or
idea
doesn't see value in
Okay,
$1.
so the idea is go work for a company that has a whole suite of products, gives you you can sell something to everybody, right? Basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Cool.
Like we probably have, I don't know, 100 different products on our website.
What's the least? What's like you say of all the for in your business, right? Cardone University, right?
And that's one division. There's 16 companies. Cardone University will have 50 million users on that platform.
Okay.
So there's 2 versions of that. There's an individual and there's a corporate. The corporate's about 40 to 80 grand a year. We probably have 1,400 companies on that product.
Sales training or other training too?
Mostly sales training. Mostly sales training, time management, personal efficiency type stuff, closing, negotiating, personal finance, and money mastery. These are all things that I have done successfully in my life that I'm like, hey, this worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but I know it's going to work. I know it worked for me.
Work for you.
And now that we've had 30 years of it, we're like, hey, it's worked for some other people too. So if it doesn't work for you.
So it's interesting.
So that's the corporate.
Sure.
That's the corporate thing. And then the other thing, that's why I'm bad as an interviewer. I never listen. So fucking guy don't listen. So I have.
You don't like interviewing, right?
No, it's fine. No, I hate doing the.
I know it's tough, right?
So there's the corporate thing, and then there's the individual that can get into that program for, $100.
Okay.
Very similar product, if not sometimes the same.
Right.
I'm selling in one place for $100.
Sure.
And another place for 80 grand.
Same exact product or little.
Very similar.
I'm no expert. Like I am new to this online course arena, if you will. But can you do that? Like, let's just say I have a signature course for podcasters who are just starting, for beginners. And it's got everything, all my systems, processes, everything. It's $1,000. Okay, cool. But now it's like that signature program labeled as a corporate version that's almost 100 grand for companies. Can you legally do that? Because what would happen if somebody paid for the course that was $100 from Grant, and then the corporation, he paid 80 grand a year, and then somehow that got back to it. And it's like, wait a minute, I paid $100 here. I'm paying $80,000. Is that legal? And do companies do this all the time? And if so, how do they get away with that?
Similar, right? Same learning.
So how do you pull that off? That's the trick. That's the thing that people should be asking.
Right.
How do I create multiple products, multiple price points without killing myself with inventory? Because we're not Amazon, right? And I'm not Whole Foods. I can't. I'm not Starbucks. I don't have the money to finance the individual listening today.
Okay.
So I have an apartment complex. I would never go and say I only have 2 bedrooms. I got studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Otherwise, I don't have a shot. Whether they're coming to me or whether I'm going to them or whether it's on the phone or outbound, to me, it's all the same.
He's having a wide variety of products to sell, right?
Well, it could be 3 on a landing page.
Okay.
Like people are on Instagram talking about blah blah blah. I got blah blah blah, and then they go to a website. They shouldn't be going to a website. They should be going to a landing page, and there should be one choice there with 2 possible options at most.
Would you say
So I'd be curious to what if he could give an example of what one of his landing pages looked like that had 3 different products and 3 different price points on it, and just see what the actual conversion rate is. And it's like, okay, let's just say product ABC, you see that B and C are doing really good. Do you just split test that into just B and C, or do you go all in on B? Or I don't know, just are you talking about like upsells? Like, because if you go to a landing page to buy somebody's course, then there's an upsell, like, oh, you get a planner, a hat, and a coffee mug for an extra $25. Ooh, I want that. And it's like, for $1,000 extra bucks, you can talk to Grant, Jordan, and Thomas all at the same time. Is it about the upsell, or is it all on one? I don't know. Which are you having better luck with?
You're a better salesman or marketer?
I'd say I'm a better businessman.
Better business. Which of the 2, sales to marketing? What do you think about those 2?
I'm a better businessman.
Better businessman. Entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about, no. I'm thinking about being a businessman. A lot of entrepreneurs out there.
Explain that to me.
So an entrepreneur, by definition, is not what most people are doing right now. Like they're just calling themselves entrepreneurs. They hadn't even looked up the definition. So I'm just gonna look it up just so I don't.
Of entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? You ever looked it up?
I kind of know intuitively
what do you think?
what it means.
What do you think it means?
Someone who starts businesses and,
Person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on, listen, but this is the important part. This is good for your young viewer. Taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. By definition, the second half of that, most people are not entrepreneurs because they never take on any risk. Like they're holding on to their money. They got cash in the banks. They got equity in their houses. They're saving money, saving for retirement. If you're doing any of that shit,
versus putting the balls against the fucking wall,
you're
right?
A bitch. You're like, what are you doing, dude? You're more committed. People are more committed to the equity in their home than they are to the equity of their brand or business. So I made this mistake for years.
In your own life.
Yeah.
When did you said, like, so you weren't successful early on. When was the shift? What was it like that moment where all of a sudden?
When I was 51.
51.
Yeah.
How old are you now? You're fucking older than me.
61.
You're older than me.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was the shift? What was it?
2010, man.
Tell me.
2010, I was just like, I had a little bit of success. I had 3 companies that were doing well.
Right.
And
what were those companies? Was it sales
there
training?
There was a sales training, a speaking business.
Okay.
That I had been doing for 20 years. And it had really become just about me collecting a fee. We would market it. We owned the production of the event. The only difference was I wasn't getting a speaking fee. I was getting a piece of the gate.
Okay.
So I didn't actually do any speaking for hire.
Speaking about sales?
Sales. It was all sales, and it was
industry specific? Or?
Yeah, it was automotive.
Okay.
I was very, very dependent upon the automobile industry. So I realized, number one, I'll never be dependent upon one industry again, ever. Number 2, the other business was a consulting business that was similar in
auto.
That I didn't run. I was a partnership, and I collected a royalty with it, and that was great for years. It was great until it wasn't, right?
Right.
And then the third business was I would take all the money from the first 2 and pour it into real estate because I knew that real estate would live longer than I could.
Right.
And it would work better than I could. So the problem with all 3 of those, though, is I never did it big. Like I never did it big.
And I completely get diversifying your income, but would it be, as somebody who's just starting or maybe in like a mid-level, would it be smart to just focus on one thing at a time and then diversifying into a bunch? Or would you recommend that it's like start this, and this, go all out and see what happens, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks?
So I had guys that had worse ideas and worse products that were beating me in the marketplace. I'm like, his stuff sucks, dude. But he beat me.
Right. Because he's advertising like a madman and pouring money at it.
Exactly. He was like, and I was making fun of him. But the truth is, he was manning up in the game, and I wasn't. It was a guy named, there's a number of them. I mean, there was a bunch of companies. There was a bunch of guys around me in advertising, marketing, another sales training company. They were pouring money on the deal, and I wasn't. I was saving money.
Right.
In 2010, and I said, oh shit, but I got more money than they do. I knew I was wealthier by net worth than they were. But so what, right? Because when 2010 came, it took us all out. Like everybody got washed out.
Yeah.
So my first business got cut in half. The second business got cut by 80%. And the real estate, I couldn't move any real estate. I couldn't sell it couldn't. I mean, I was still renting. It actually got me through 2010 because the rent kept coming in. Because the other two stopped completely.
How'd the real estate stuff do in 2000? It was really 2009, really, right? That's when it started.
Well, 2008
Nine, the day was it. Even was 2009.
Nine, it was cataclysmic fear. 2010,
I remember
like people getting fucking. Now they're starting to clean up the mess. The bank that I owed the bank $52 million, they went under. And I'm like, okay, glad that wasn't me. But the problem is when the bank goes under,
right?
When the boat that you're on goes down,
right?
And the new bank comes in, the new bank says, we got some new rules.
Fuck you, pay me.
It was called the technical default. And anybody, if the loan changed names, ownership, they could call the loan.
Yeah, they were doing crazy shit back then.
Yeah,
cutting credit lines. It was unbelievable. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was so. When did that hit?
So how would I be like? He was saying cutting credit lines, new rules. How, and that was in 2010. So how would those rules, if they were to do that in today's world, would that fly? Would it be legal? Would there just be like a huge uproar? Like what would happen today if what happened back in 2010 when banks went under and then changed the rules in the middle of the game when it came to your finances?
So 2010 was the worst.
No,
part?
I mean, there was no bottom right there. It was like, oh, I got it. How long am I going to get dragged out, right? We didn't lose anything. I didn't go bankrupt. I didn't lose anything. All my buddies that were buying real estate and really doing a lot of no money down stuff, they lost everything. But I was terrified. Okay, I was so scared. I thought I'd left my family down, and we couldn't expand. I was too scared to expand, even though I had some cash.
And when you were down like that, how did you pull yourself out? Like, what was it that just kind of pulled you up by your bootstraps and you're like, okay, now I got to fix this stuff? Because I can't imagine going from 0 to 100, then back to 0 again. And they talk about it in entrepreneurship all the time. Gary Vee talks about how it is one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the dark side of entrepreneurship. And that's what it sounds like is happening. So it would be curious to hear his side of that story.
Great opportunity to invest in a great company. I would have. I love the guy. And he wanted $1 million, a measly $1 million. I had it, but I couldn't give it to him, dude, because I was so scared. And so I realized then I will never be in this position again. That was 10 years ago. And what I did then was okay, I got to get other industries to know me. I got to get known. I got to start using these social mediums that I thought was a waste of time. You know, I'm like, this is all bullshit. And so I just leaned into it, dude. And we built a Facebook following, and that changed everything. We didn't have any e-commerce going. We'll do 40 million in e-commerce this year.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was the first thing, like taking it to like now, what's the first thing you did? You said, fuck it, I'm going balls to the walls. You started, did you hire consultants or you did?
No, I didn't.
Just figured out yourself trial and error, basically?
Yeah, I didn't hire any consultants.
Just said, I'm going to do it, makes sense to me, basically, right?
I just started like, okay, I'm not sleeping. I'm not, no more play. I told my wife, I said, don't spend any money. Everything went into suffer. We went into a suffer mode. Like, okay, we're going to suffer now. We're going to suffer until we're out of this deal, and I will never do this to my family again.
Right.
And so in 10 years, we went from, 60 customers to almost 2,000 corporate to, probably 20,000 individuals on a regular basis, recurring. Right. We went from, I think I had 300 units then. We have 6,000 now. That's 20X, not 10X. So.
What is your core business now? Real estate? Is it mostly you doing? What do you think it is really?
Sometimes I wonder.
Because I've heard, companies say you're heavily into real estate, and
we got $1 billion.
And you actually sell. You take in outside money too, right?
Cardone Capital.
So what is? Explain that to me.
Cardone Capital. We created Cardone Capital because I set up a thing for my twin brother, my sister.
Identical or fraternal?
Identical.
No.
Yeah, identical.
Let me see if
I might
come
be
on.
him. I might be him
I
right
see
now. How do you know I'm not him?
How do I know it's not you?
You don't fucking know. I don't even know. Shit. Maybe I'm him. I don't even know it.
Do you guys look exact? Well, when you were younger, you probably looked exact.
Yeah. He went the corporate route. He's very corporate. I'm very not corporate. So Cardone Capital, we created because so many people say, hey, I want to invest in real estate the way you do. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Can't find the deals. A bunch of my wealthy friends that, they're running businesses. They're like, I don't have time to go find real estate, People that live in California, they're like, there's no way you can buy this shit around here because you never own this stuff. Like the tenant owns this.
Right.
You buy this place right here and try to rent it out, he don't have to pay you and you can't get him out
Right.
in this state. Here in New York, you can't get people out. So you don't really own the property. So anyway, we created Cardone Capital. We've raised $223 million.
Do you raise from accredited investors or unaccredited or both? Anyone?
In 20 months.
In 20 months.
Without paying a fee.
What type
you know what that takes.
That's great. So what
220 million.
Who's your typical investor?
So I talk about this all the time with providing context to your audience who doesn't know what he's talking about. So to be able to raise that kind of money in that short a time, like what has to be done? When he was like giving him the nudge, like, you know what that takes. Well, what exactly does that take?
Non-accredited and accredited.
Okay.
5,000 minimum for non-accredited and 100,000 minimum for accredited.
Great. And explain how it works?
They get a 6% return on their money. That's the preferred return for the accredited. There's no preferred on the non-accredited, and then they get it's a 65-35 split on the way out.
Okay.
10-year hold with discretion, could be longer than.
And if I were to ask Jordan, I'd be like, Jordan, like with what he just said, what does that mean to you? What is the risk involved? How is it legal? Do you skate that line of it being illegal? I have no idea. So just by Jordan's reaction, I'd have to ask. If I was sitting right next to him, I'd be like, oh, what are your thoughts on what he just said?
Than 10 years. In fact, it might be we never sell. The goal really is to refinance the portfolio.
So is there cash flow that they get for
every month? They get paid every month,
no matter what, or as long
as the property cash flows. I want cash flow. Like this cash flow is king. Right? Cash is trash. Cash by itself is shit. So the idea is
one of the truest statements ever uttered.
it's garbage. It's garbage.
Cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king. So
I learned that the hard way when I was 21 years old.
Right. Yeah. So we just buy properties that.
Real quick, and I would be like, Jordan, what do you mean when you were 21? What exactly are you talking about? What happened? What was the story? And then as he would go into details, this is where like follow-up questions come in. And everything, you just got to active listen, see what he says, and you'll just have to kind of be like, oh, well, what did you mean by that? Or tell me more about that, or why did you do that, or how did you feel about that? You could go down that whole rabbit hole of him being 21, and it sounds like he lost his shirt.
Cash flow from day one. We don't build anything. We don't do condos. We don't do strip malls. I only buy what flows cash back to the investors and myself the next month.
Got it. And how long have you been doing the outside money for? 20 months? 20 months?
Yeah.
That's great. You raised a lot of money.
Yeah, we've raised a lot. I'm going to raise $1 billion in cash in the next.
Can you go back to
the next 18 months? $1 billion. Hey, $1 billion in cash.
$1 billion?
$1 billion. I'm going to end up building.
What makes a Grand Cardone? Go back to
Cardone Capital is going to be a $10 billion company. I'm going to sell
Can I have
this.
this hat? Do I get to keep this hat? Is this
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to sell this to Blackstone or Goldman Sachs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was your upbringing? Like, were you?
I know this is an older interview, but I haven't heard the best thing about Blackstone in the real estate market. But it's just like, I don't know. This is where if you sell real estate, you're a realtor or broker or whatever, you need to let me know, like, if you had that much selling it to a Goldman Sachs and Blackstone, like, first of all, how do you get in that room? And what does that do for like the average home buyer? Like, things are kind of shifty in the market now. So it'd be curious to hear what would happen now. If you're a real estate agent, just please comment below and explain this to me.
Rich, poor, middle class? Tell me.
No, we were middle class.
I know you were a twin.
Yeah, we were middle class.
Yeah.
And
ethnic.
My dad died when I was 10.
Right.
So that left a big void, you know.
Are you the youngest, middle, in your family?
I was the youngest.
You're the youngest. Yeah.
I was number four and 5.
Okay.
So the last two, and they weren't planning us. So my dad was 42 years old.
And he died?
No, he was 42 when he had us.
Okay.
When he knew we were coming. He had 3 other kids.
Okay.
So he was like, "Oh my God, I wasn't planning on this deal." And then he's got a double trouble. Right. He's a middle class dude. He was doing the Wall Street thing back in the
stockbroker.
Stockbroker, selling stocks. and looking at real estate on the weekend, which I found to be quite interesting. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, why aren't you looking at stocks on the weekend? Why are you looking at real estate? Because even the stockbrokers know the stocks are bullshit.
Right. How about your mom?
So that's the thing about stocks is ever since the GameStop short happened, it's like it was like the Wizard of Oz where we saw behind the curtain and realized that that's not all it's cracked up to be either. But my question is like, okay, well, if your dad was a stockbroker, were you ever learning from your dad? Like to learn stocks, like that's investing too. I know you're huge into real estate, but it's like, how much did you learn from your dad? Was your dad a salesman? Did he teach you anything about, pushing, fear of loss, like influence, like anything? Cause that's Jordan's background too. And it's interesting because Jordan could go down a whole nother pathway of asking him about his dad's past to see how much he actually knew. Not in a bad way, but just like out of sheer curiosity.
She was a homemaker, little Italian lady, 4'11". They're both dead now.
Okay. And then where'd you be? Was it Michigan?
Lake Charles.
Lake Charles.
Close.
Small town.
Close. The water's the only thing Lake Charles and Michigan have in common is the water's bad.
So what? So you had a couple of unsuccessful sales.
Yeah,
forays.
Six.
And then you went out there. You sold. What was so it was fish was the first thing you sold. Well,
yeah, but I had a drug problem.
When did you really sell? Was a car? What was it like?
I sold automobiles when I was 25.
When did you really like snap in? It's obvious a way.
I know he did sell cars and he talks about having a really dark past with drugs or anything. But if he sold fish, he sold cars. Did you ever sell drugs? I mean, and I don't mean this like coming at him in a bad way, but rappers talk about it all the time. Jada Pinkett Smith used to sell drugs. That's the one that just off the top of my head, but it's like at any point in your career, were you selling drugs? I think I saw something with Gary Vee one time where he was talking to people. And it's like drug dealers are like entrepreneurs. They're selling stuff. They're getting a business sense. Yeah, sure. It's illegal, but they're still learning whether they know it or not. So it'd be interesting to know if he did.
Way that you sell, right? Is there a strategy or no? It's just hard. It's mostly hard work, you think, or there's a strategy. You have a lot of stuff you teach. Is strategy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But
So
there's no strategy that works without somebody to talk to.
Right. So what's
The ultimate?
What's the digging
No,
past
the ultimate. Like I've been teaching strategy for 20 years, but again, like if people would just spend time on the funnel, on the traffic, on the opportunity, on
the
getting
marketing,
known,
on the marketing side of the equation.
It is the holy grail. Like look around, man. Look,
But it's like, where do you start? Yeah, we need the funnel. Yeah, we need the people to expand the funnel, yada, yada, yada. That's its own entity, by the way. It's collecting emails, lead magnets, funnels. But it's like, okay, maybe this is where specificity comes in. So it's like, well, if I'm day one, no sales experience whatsoever at Grant Cardone, wherever you're based, like what would my first day look like? Like, how are you what is the first thing that I would learn from your training?
You don't go to Amazon and have anybody sell anything to you. It's the funnel. It's the traffic. So I made that mistake of thinking I'm going to be great at what I say to them. I'm going to close the deal.
Right.
I got to keep my funnel closed, full. I got to keep that funnel full so I have something to close.
Okay. So how about let's assume that you have that side figured out. You're a master of the funnel, right?
Yeah. Then you don't need. Then you won't even ask this question.
You don't need to sell.
You won't.
But you have a sales force, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so and there are things they need to say, but at the end of the day, if he's talking to 10 people a day and another guy's talking to 200 people a day, the guy that talks to 200 is going to win the game. And if there's one skill you want to learn is how to move through 200 without it causing you. It's like
But what exactly do you say to the person on the phone for these people in your funnel?
Ball players, you see these guys playing ball, they don't get upset because they lose a game. Like it doesn't bother them. They're in it for the long run. They're and this is what the sales guy or sales manager doesn't know. You got to get people ready for the long game.
Okay. So like, what is a sales guy, a young guy who's struggling? What would be the first thing you'd say to a guy, struggling salesperson?
Help somebody else, maybe. Maybe if you're struggling so bad, don't work on your own deals right now. Go help somebody. Like anytime I had a
struggling
slump,
automobile sales.
I had a slump.
Okay.
I had a slump. First thing I do with a slump, the thing that has never let me down is helping somebody else.
In what sense? Meaning?
Help another salesperson. Hey, Jordan, I'll help you on your deals.
Got
What
it.
do you want for that? Nothing.
Okay.
Just give me the list of people you talked to yesterday, because I'm fucking up my own deals.
Okay.
Just give me your list. I'll call them. What do you want for it? Nothing, dude. All I'm trying to do is get out of my slump, bro.
But if you came to, like, let's just say Jordan is just crushing it, top salesman, whatever, and I'm like me, and I suck and I can't close a window, and I go up to him and I'm like, hey man, let me take all your calls for you. Why would he let me take his calls if I'm the one sucking? Maybe, like, I get what he's trying to say, but I feel like even if you asked him, just by the whole way this interview has been going, he would just deflect into something else or just completely not answer it. But it's like, so you're saying if you're in a slump with car sales, whatever, hey, I noticed you are just crushing it. Can I just sit, listen, take notes? What do I have to do? Do I have to buy you lunch? I have to pay you, but listen to my sales call and see where I'm screwing up so I can be as good as you. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just say you do ask them and they tell you to go F off. Like, now what? Do you go to somebody else? This goes back to the sales thing. Do you push? But every time Jordan asks a question, Grant deflects. And maybe it's just me. I'm not trying to be hard on Grant, but that is what's happening. And if you see that that's not happening, let me know in the comments below.
Bro, and I'll try shit with your customers that I won't try on mine because I'm desperate with mine. So I just go into charity mode.
Got it.
And that helped me when I was 25. I went to a treatment center for drug addiction. And that was the first time I was able to
We
start
have that in common, as you probably know. What was your drug of choice, by the way?
any drug.
Not as many as me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was. I don't know.
Any drug.
Yeah, me too. So,
Terrible. The thing about drugs, you guys out there that are experimenting, like, yeah, they're just awful, dude.
Yeah.
Because the way you feel,
it almost destroyed my life. The
way you feel about yourself is terrible while you're doing it,
So it's interesting because the thing with drugs is when you're doing it, you think you can't exist without it. It's bizarre almost. Like, I look back, I'm sober for many, many years, right? I'm sober for over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But when I was doing it, I convinced myself that everyone else was on drugs. Like, how could you live without it? It's like this bizarre.
Yeah.
Game.
I knew everybody else wasn't on it.
I thought I literally I deluded myself
Yeah.
into like, they all gotta be. How could you be this wealthy and this? You have to be on drugs.
This is awesome. This would be, I'm not sure if he planned it when he structured this interview, but I just had a mind blank of, I forgot that Jordan had a drug issue and so did Grant. So this is that connection piece you could have with your guest and really talk about it. Like, he kind of like felt him out with like, what's the drug of choice? He's like, every drug or whatever he said. And it's just like all of them. He didn't want to get into it. So you got to know not to read into it, but you can push a little bit, and start to like relate to him. This is why he's saying, like, I went through this exact same thing. Feels like, and now he's opening up, being vulnerable. So maybe Grant will open up about the whole drug issue, because there's a lesson to be learned here too. That's about it for that.
Drugs to move through the world, right? That was my belief,
Yeah.
So how long are you sober for?
I hadn't used drugs since I was 25.
Okay.
So, what is that? 36 years.
Okay.
A little while.
So first thing, good point, charity, right? So you just
also, when it comes to drugs with both of them, like, what was your rock bottom moment and how did you get out of it? And when you got out of it, what challenges did you face? What was the hardest challenge? How did you get through that? And how do you feel now that you can look back and see where you've come from? And are you helping, by any chance, are you, either one of you, helping anybody else with addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol? Do you guys have any interest in doing something like that?
say if you're struggling, say, let me help you with your deals. I don't want any commission. I just want to start talking, get myself talking,
Back in the
saying the right thing.
I just need to, I need to make a shot.
Okay. And then what?
And I need to loosen up, because when you're losing deals, you get tight, right? So then once I break out of it, I'm back on again.
Got it. Okay. How about when in terms of like the phone, use the phone versus door knocking? Which do you like better?
Phone's definitely senior.
Phone's the better one.
Phone's senior because I can talk to more people. Like I used to market my own seminars, right? I would market the seminar for 3 days, and then I would show up in the city. Another group was just marketing the city. I would do a city in 14 days. We were doing seminars in 14 days. They were spending anywhere from 8 weeks to 10 weeks to market the same seminar, which raised their cost. I'm in and out in 14 days because I made 3 days of phone calls that were brutal. Hey, I'm coming to San Antonio, man. Will you give me 5 minutes? This is before anybody knew who I was, right? No books, no kind of notoriety. So
if no one knew who you were, how did you get them there? Like, what was the pitch? Because if you had, once again, I could be wrong here. If you were calling 300 people in each city, you know exactly what to say and what not to say. So what did you say that worked? And what did you say that didn't work?
They're like, no, don't come by. But see, that was interest. To me, that's interest. No, I'm not interested. Not interested.
So not interested to you is interest.
Well, it is. It says not interested. Not is an adjective to describe interest.
Okay.
Right? So it's a level of interest.
So if someone says they're not interested.
On a scale from 0 to 10, what interest level do you have? None. That is a level.
Right.
Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You with me? A few minutes ago, he didn't know he had no interest. At least I'm on it. You see what I'm saying? You get it?
Well, I wouldn't do that. I disagree with that. But I'm not saying that reasonable minds could differ. I would.
Yeah.
I'm more about hitting massive numbers. I would move on to the next guy.
Yeah, well,
the problem I see is with
I love how Jordan takes control and doesn't make him feel like he's attacking him for disagreeing with him, which you don't see on many podcasts. And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I am by no means perfect at this. It just depends what you're talking about. I try and provide value and to get a lot of value out of people. I don't like to go to like the darker places like you see on these celebrity interviews where people ask these like dark questions about their addiction. And so like, I would never go down that route with either one of those two. It's like people want to know if you're talking to either one of these people, it's about sales, marketing, or trying to how to make money. So stick with that unless like there's this heartfelt question you just really need to ask.
Salespeople a lot of people, they have a fear of cold calling.
Yeah.
So they'll use as an excuse to not cold call to talk to someone for too long. They know he's not going to buy. They get into casual conversations. They go off to fucking Pluto.
Yeah.
And they don't pick up next call. So that's what bothers me about doing that.
Yeah. Well, then they're not trained. Because they shouldn't be having casual conversations. We shouldn't be talking about the weather and sports and politics.
But you know, in the absence of 24/7 supervision, that's what salespeople do. They do.
Well, there should be 24 hours. There should be 24/7 supervision. The phone calls should be recorded. The manager should know exactly what they opened with.
But in the real world, though, that's not.
In my real world, it's possible.
I know, but
in your real world, maybe it's not. But in your real world, everybody's using drugs. So in my real world, fucking nobody's using drugs, and you're going to set the intention. Hey, I'm calling because I want to get you on this program. That's the reason I'm calling you.
Okay, so you're
Grant Cardone.
Let me understand. I understand.
Yeah, hang on a second.
No one's having ineffective conversations in your room ever. Or any company you train.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said in my real world, where we work.
This whole I just wish there was a camera on Jordan's reactions the entire time he's talking to Grant, because now it's getting a little heated. You could tell he's pushing, like Jordan's losing his patience a little bit and he's starting to push back on Grant. Did you see it? Because I sure did. And it'd be interesting to see, like, let's just say they had a mug or a pen to see who could outsell the other. But I wonder if they would do like a showdown live, like on stage of actually selling phone calls, doing live calls through leads to make sure no one's cheating, nobody's buying stuff on the back end, like just to see who could outsell who and take bets.
Where in Miami, when those guys are on the phone, every one of those calls are recorded.
Right. And everyone's listened to by QC people, every single one.
Management, and they're intervened if they're incorrect. They train every morning. They train every night.
Okay.
They're recorded in their trainings, and they're corrected, and if once they correct their numbers, their statistics will go up.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if the program works, the stats should go up.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like, just because you're getting training education, and if it's not moving the graph, like what kind of training is that?
Okay.
So we measure everything by a graph. The graph's either going up or it's going down. And if it's going down over and over, then you get to go away.
Okay. So you think that at any given moment in the average sales force out there, salespeople are just always doing the right, even if they train.
I can't talk about the average sales force because I'm thinking about mine. So mine needs to become the model.
Right.
I got guys selling on the phone, like the calls you're talking about, that will make more money than a guy at Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
Selling a $20,000 product.
Right. But listen, in all due respect, buddy, I've trained millions of salespeople.
Millions.
And I have. And I just know, and I've trained all types. And I know that.
How'd you train them, though?
What?
How'd you train them?
Doesn't matter.
From
The point
stage? Yeah, it matters. It matters.
No, it doesn't matter. I trained in my own business from stage as a consultant. The point is that my opinion is human beings are human beings, and people, the average salesperson, that if you leave them to their own devices, they will tend to stay too long on a call because they don't want to pick up the phone and dial the next one.
They won't make a call. Exactly.
No, if you get them to make calls, but they'll still stay too long.
Yeah.
So you want to rein them in.
Yeah, but then you would look at, then somebody's not managing that guy, because you would look at number of calls, not just calls. Like talk time that equates to nothing.
Yeah.
Means somebody doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's not, you don't leave human beings up to their own devices.
Well, the thing is, though,
you don't leave them. Like if you
when you have a commission structure, right? You want to obviously create an incentive plan that motivates people. You don't want to disincentivize people, right?
It's just interesting. I don't know why it's just hitting me now, but a lot of the interviews that you see with Grant, it's more motivating and how to like 10x and like be ruthless, be obsessed. Like I get it. But unless there's other podcast interviews out there, maybe I missed one. Please, once again, tag it below of actually breaking down sales training on what he actually does specifically, almost like a coaching session. Like what would a coaching session sound like if he was listening to a call, he listened to however many recordings to see how we did, took notes. Like, what is your process with that? Can you share that with us? What does that exactly sound like?
Right. So you want to motivate people with certain things. You want to set them up to succeed, right?
I want to make sure they're successful.
Right. You want to set them on and give them the best chance of success, right? Yeah. So my point is that when I have someone on a phone, when I train them, is that if my belief is that people have a tendency, I think you agree with this, that in the absence of intervention, they'll talk too long to someone who's not going to buy. That's my belief. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I agree that they would, yes.
Okay, good. So then my point is that, so I try to instill procedures to stop them, to know when do you know, like, because some people, they're just not natural salespeople. I am.
No, nobody's a natural salesperson.
Well, I was a natural salesperson. Okay. I was. And I ran to many over the years. They were naturals, right? Yeah. Many aren't.
How many have you run into?
Countless
Can't
people.
Count them.
Countless natural salespeople. And also, there's the whole barometer in between, right? The point is that what I always say, even with naturals, even myself, that if without conscious forethought, you'll tend to extend the call longer than you should because you don't want to pick up that phone. And it's like human nature on some levels, psychology.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think people want to avoid, that's why I said earlier, it is the number, it's the volume.
What do you,
it's getting through.
You made fun of NLP, right? Neuro-linguistic program. I heard someone say, I just got to know.
I don't think much of any gimmicks like
NLP, gimmick.
Yeah, totally. I've never had an NLP salesman work for us.
I don't know if that was just a quick edit, or just a complete shift in conversation. That's the beauty of editing. If you've got 3 or 4 cameras, you can make it look seamless, but it was just like they were getting worked up so much to this. And then it just shifted into, you don't like NLP, right? Like that's just, I don't know if that was just a quick edit, or Jordan taking control and just getting off the subject because it's going south.
Like,
well, I don't know if there are NLP.
They've never been.
I don't know what an NLP salesman would look like. It's not.
I don't either. I know guys that are like, hey, I'm doing NLP. Good. They never work. They never. They're never.
Have you studied it at all?
No. They're never productive.
Given Grant's background with certain we'll just say certain organizations that he is involved with. It's just interesting that and I'm not taking a dig, that he is okay with one thing, but then something like NLP, what Tony Robbins does, is he's like totally against it. And I know what he believes in doesn't believe in NLP, which is fair, whatever. But to not even give it a chance, and that your way is the only way. I would be like, do you realize how that sounds? Do you care? Or if not, like I said, I'm trying to get a feel of who you are and like how you think. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm going to cut it here. All right, that does it for this podcast interview breakdown. But before you go, if this is your first time on this channel, my goal is to help podcasters like yourself become the authority in their niche with podcast interviews. So if you have a podcast or you're thinking about starting one shortly, this free download is for you. It's a list of my top 25 podcast interview questions that I use to make me sound like a professional, and it gives me the ability to get those golden nugget sound bites so you can double your downloads and turn your listeners into leads. The link for this is in the description, and we'll see you next time.